Let's get a quick show of hands on how many of you have been playing Dying Light 2 recently. And be honest, you can't just open up the game accidentally and say you've been full grind mode supporting since day one. Hell, I'll be honest, I accidentally opened the game up last week. I mistook that game's icon for Wolfenstein's icon. My bad. Prior to that, I don't know, it's been maybe a month. You know what? Forget I even asked. I'll do you one better. Let's take a quick look here. Wow, that's way lower than I thought. I'm actually a little curious. Let's compare it to the original. That is a lot closer than I would have guessed. But to be fair, the original does have DLC, tons of content, and, real shit to do. I think 5+ years under its belt. Meanwhile, the second game was just given a bad hand. It's not all Techland's fault. I mean, we had Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, the new Halo TV show, Master Chief giving the fans what they always wanted. That ass, Kim Kardashian suing Roblox over a sex tape. Male birth control pills were announced. Daylight savings just happened. It's been a busy launch 2 months, but thank God there appears to be some light at the end of the tunnel, huh? With a new game plus, the Mutated Series event coming, if the roadmap is any indication of what to expect, as well as a laundry list of bugs that continue to ruin some people's experience, which ironically over the course of this game I've gotten more bugs than what I experienced at launch, but I'm doing my part. I've been informing Techland on it, still no word. I mean, at this point I'm just kind of getting creative with my submissions until the new update arrives. But back on topic, the new game plus is around the corner, and let me say real quick, props to Techland. And I'm being serious here, no sarcasm whatsoever. Techland will be getting out their new game plus, if it does arrive before the end of the month, within 2 months of the game's launch date. And all things considered, that is pretty fast. Some games take anywhere from 6 months to a year, while some games stubbornly refuse implementing it, and rather stick to some shitty endgame content to keep people held over. And especially for a game like Dying Light 2, it is technically an RPG. Granted, it's not as deep as other games, but there's a lot of things to consider. Loot, gear, upgrades, we potentially could be getting a transmog system at some point in time. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that goes into the entire concept of properly executing a new game plus, and it's not as simple as just going through the story all over again with some new skills and a maxed out character. I mean, you want to have some type of challenge, you want to have some type of rewards that weren't there in your initial playthrough. But I have to say, I don't know if a new game plus is really enough. And don't get me wrong, I love the game, and I'm as excited as the next person to re-experience the story with a cracked out Aiden completely drop-kicking everything from the start. But here's the thing, while the parkour and combat feel a bit different than the original, and the addition of the chase system and how streets during the day are meant to be more vacant, solidifying the game's lore, the evolution of the Ron virus and those affected by it, I think there's a little bit of a double-edged sword here. On the one hand, Techland made their world lore and Dying Light IP much more solid with stronger parameters with how the infected behave and the world reacts, creating much more depth to the game, which can be incredibly satisfying. But on the other hand, the execution was done so, I don't want to say poorly, but done with such a light hand, it's made those want more of the original game was, and look at the sequel with more disappointment. Allow me to elaborate on what I mean here. We've all wanted more of a challenging experience, especially at night, and instead of leaning into the systems the game has in place and making changes there, like shortening the chase timer to rise to the higher chase levels faster, making volatiles less predictable, and have the ability to actually cut you off or hit you mid-air or jump onto you if you're paragliding low next to a very low rooftop. I've seen suggestions that kind of contradict those systems and even negate some other infected. Like, I've seen people say, why can't we just have volatiles roaming the streets at night similar to what we did in the first game? That's cool, but to me that then mitigates the point of a howler. It would also make people less willing to actually traverse at night because the threat is instantly higher from the start. I'd rather have volatiles in certain areas like military convoys, around chemical zones defending a hive of theirs, or defending some type of high value reward rather than aimlessly roaming the world like the first game. Personally, I want some sort of deviation or evolution from the first game, and I believe with the inclusion of volatile hives somewhere down the line like we had with the following DLC, that would allow some areas to be similar to the first with patrolling volatiles without intruding so much on the new systems like the chase meter and howlers being used as biological alarms. I also think Techland have made a little bit of a mistake with assigning the new infected and even old special infected like banshees and goons to encounters. They're not frequent or unique enough to justify it. Personally, with the new mutation series coming out sometime this month, that should be replacing encounters. Goons and banshees should be seen more frequently, while the latter also being connected to the chase meter system, adding some sort of intensity and layer of difficulty like the players requested. But I'm getting a little bit off topic myself. The point I was ultimately getting at was this: the entire player base has their own visions, tweaks, suggestions, and preferences as to what they want to see in the game and how it'll be their perfect experience. Techland has been incredibly open to all this, which is great. Problem comes when you start to lose your own vision and make some tweaks that are either detrimental to what you initially had in mind, or you start to make some compromises that are in line with those initial visions, but you now start to make some changes that are meant to satisfy the player base, yet are executed half-heartedly, and in the end ultimately satisfy no one, which then leads to more suggestions and complaints. I mean, I'm sure they have a solid plan for the next year or so, and they know what fans want the most. I just think immediately, in my opinion, there should be some type of small overhaul. We've seen them do this before with the sound, the ragdoll effects, the UI. This time it should be more with how the entire infected roster are utilized. I'd suggest changing how dark zones are. The fact the streets are vacant during the day is something I both love and hate. It makes exploration so much better. You know, you can get around with little to no hindrances or distractions, but at other times it's fun to just go around and murder shit. I would love either more bandits roaming during the day, increasing the amount of times you have to fight humans, maybe even having survivors and PKs move around more too, causing much more infighting within the game's world, or hell, make biters much more abundant during the day. I know this statement might be a little bit more contradictory considering I shared my whole stance with roaming volatiles and how that's too similar to the first game. Biters being much more abundant during the day too might be too similar, yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I want to go on a murder spree. Right now I don't run into too many infected to kind of keep that high of constant fighting ongoing. And the idea I had for changing up how dark zones work, ultimately they're the same. I was just thinking instead of having biters in it, it's all virals, or a viral, you know, basically like a viral hive, or a bunch of virals with a couple spitters or chargers, because I found dark zones to be much more fun and engaging when you're dealing with a lot of virals at once. But I don't know, I'm sure I sound like a broken record. I'm not the only one making suggestions, again, like everyone else. I was just thinking that I'm not sure if a New Game Plus is really enough to keep people coming back and constantly be engaged. There could be other stuff in this update for all we know. This is supposed to be one of the biggest updates this game has seen yet, even without the inclusion of New Game Plus. It's just a matter of what is it? Is it quality of life improvements, fixing all these bugs and issues that have been plaguing the game from day one, or is it that stuff on top of more content, on top of that New Game Plus that we've been waiting for? But of course, let me know what you guys think. Have you guys been waiting for this New Game Plus? Have you been playing everything else besides this game? Have you been playing really only Dying Light 2? Let's talk. I'd love to hear where your mind is with this update that's supposed to be coming, and pretty much what you've been doing to preoccupy yourself over the last, I don't know, month or so, since I've kind of been off doing my own thing and not uploading. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching, but until next time, I'll see you all later.